somebody I know is got something going on social media, we should have spoke to them and not about them. You know what I mean? And Eboni is our people. So I feel like we should probably spoke to her, you know, reached out to her like we always do for everything else. And I didn't watch the full interview with Ayanla. I watched the clip online.
The good thing I reached out to you, my good brother.
Yes,
and we had a productive, spirited conversation.
Yes, we did.
And you rolled out the red carpet, and that's why I'm here today. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Now, did who watch the full interview with Ayanla?
I did listen to the full Holding Court episode with Eboni K. Williams and Dustin Ross. Of course, I saw the clips as well, and I as well responded on my podcast. See the thing is, and spoke about it. Well. However, there was more with you than that, and so I'm excited this conversation.
Ayanla was really the issue when watching it, though. Like, I mean, I made a comment on your page and Breakfast Club page, and men was jumping down my throat because I'm like, what does it matter what she wants to be with? But I think the other comments were tough to watch.
So here's the thing. I want to, first of all, as I started with my Holding Court episode, offer gratitude. Because I think what we know, the fact that this conversation with myself and Dr. Ayanla, shout out to my SOAR, it aired last week. And let's talk about what's happened since then. We've had a whole White House Correspondents' Dinner, which Roy Wood Jr. killed. Shout out to Roy. We've had...
Mindset won't make me be great. Okay, listen. Hey, guys, welcome to Little Black Man 91. We're back with another one. Listen, you know what? I was going to let it go. I was going to let it go. I promise you, I was going to let it go. I was. And then just as I was letting it go, someone sent me this link and said, have you watched the interview of Eboni K and the Breakfast Club? And I said, oh, damn. I thought I was going to let it go. But we're back here again with this conversation. So if you're triggered and you're annoyed about having to watch this for the 4th time, 5th time in this week, do the same thing I do. Like, share, subscribe. Click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and so loaded. I took a book out of our good sister Eboni K. Williams' profile, and you know what? I put a triggering title because she wasn't just triggering black men; she was triggering people in general. Okay, who are black. Okay, so we're gonna keep it all the way back. But she did a recent interview, and we're gonna break down the interview and have a real conversation about it, because this is where you're gonna get the full whack. I'm gonna break it all the way down. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna, discuss the certain points that she discussed and brought to the table, and just have a real conversation. Okay, so you're gonna get to watch it here. If you haven't watched it already, I will play it for you so you can show it, but I will stop it in between times as well. All right, let's get into this conversation, because she came out and told us the absolute truth of the reason why she actually did this video. And I personally felt like, Eboni, if you say you're an educator and you want to help educate, I hear you. I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? And I actually learned some things from you. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually enjoyed listening to the conversation. I just feel like, you need to be intellectually honest. And I don't say intellectually. I just need to be honest. Okay? And which you were. You don't care about people's feelings. You wanted to trigger people. You wanted them to come out of the space that they were in. That's what it is, right? But in doing so, you doo-dooed on the people who you wanted to uplift. And that's where there's a contradictory statement. And that's all that needs to be really said. But there's a whole 40 minutes of video that we're going to have to break down, because there was 40 minutes of conversation that got to some type of conclusion, but not towards a resolution in the end. So let's break it all the way down. And let's have a real conversation, because this was a bit mad for me. Okay. Apologies, guys. My internet was trying to play up for me just as I was about to start the comments of the work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you need to stop. Okay, y'all need to stop. Okay, y'all need to stop. Okay. All right, cool. Let's go again.
The fact that we've got to have this conversation as black men and women, and we're talking about the black family structure and black wealth building, and all of those are tenets that are tethered to why this has hit such a nerve and why it's reverberating, in a way. Tyrese posting about it, Jason Lee posting about it, Shade Room posting about it, Spiritual World posting about it, Ava DuVernay in the comments, Viola Davis in the comments.
What was Viola saying?
We get to it. So that's a good thing. I want to start by that framework. Nothing about this is negative. People are disagreeing. People are feeling a way. We're going to talk about it. But I want to start by the framing that we cannot have Russian culture and not do the work of repair. So to me, this is a conversation about repairing and restoring what has historically been a productive, valuable conversation and relationship between black men and women that somehow, some way has gotten away from us.
Well, yeah, I think it's two different conversations. Like I watched.
Okay, so first thing she says is, this is a great conversation for the community in terms of repairing what has been ruptured. And there's some actual truth to this, right? Because this conversation is about a bigger situation, right? It's about a bigger situation. So there's a bigger perspective on this. And I'm not mad at that, right? And we've been having that discourse over the last 4 days. But, the reality of the situation is, the stance she took, yeah, sis, you did more damage than actually did actual helping, and that's the biggest problem. You know what I mean? I think you've done more damage than actually helping, and that's the point, right? You want to get the community speaking, they have, but the community is now speaking about you. They're not speaking about how to grow. They're speaking about you. So although it got the attention of people, the attention hasn't been shifted to about this conversation, right? Now, of course, on this platform, we're going to always have great conversations. So, we're going to do it, right? But the reality is the conversation hasn't expanded to people having greater conversations. It's only expanded to people saying, Eboni, you're a problem. That's all that's happened. You've not sparkled the mind of the individuals to now start speaking, hey, what do you think? Do you think we should be upgrading ourselves? None of that's happening. No one's been inspired to do that. Really and truly, let's be honest. Okay, no one's really been inspired to do that, right? So if you're saying that's what you were trying to do, we haven't actually hit that particular target. But on this channel, we'll always have great conversations. I loved it today. We had some great conversations earlier on as well, and we broke down some real stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, but again, I hear what she's saying. Let's go.
Like I don't care who.
There's a lot of people that don't know what you're talking about. That might have just tuned in and have no idea.
Go ahead, Frank.
Do they live under a rock?
Some people, because you have to tell people what you're talking about.
Okay.
So it's something from comments that, because I don't want to misconstrue, because we only had a small piece of your conversation with Ayanna.
Sure.
So during your Ayanna conversation, she asked if you would date a bus driver.
So let me back up for 1 second and be correct. I invited Ayanna on my Griot show. That Griot show airs on Byron Allen's network. The Griot airs every night at 6. Let's first of all start with this whole shit is y'all's fault.
It always is.
This whole shit is y'all's fault here at the Breakfast Club. No, love y'all. Y'all had Ayanna on. And Ayanna made a statement on the Breakfast Club morning show, and she said that a lot of young black ladies out here are men in skirts.
Which you agreed with.
Which I found very provocative. Did I not call you that day? I said, oh, this is spicy. I would love to participate in this conversation. And then you do what you always do, and you went radio silent. That's cool. So then I invited her. Everybody that knows Charlamagne and is a loving relationship with Charlamagne, that's the shit. He cool. It's cool. I never take it personal. So it's cool.
And you know what? I just want to. I want to also say this as well. Whilst I watched this, I actually started to like Eboni. I'm gonna be real with you. Whilst I watched it, I really did like her. I liked her in the beginning, and then towards the end, it went a bit skew. But in the beginning, I really did like her. I was like, yo, I like her energy. She's spunky. She's how do I say? She's spunky. She's how do I say this in a way? She's spiky. She's got good energy, right? So this aspect, I was like, yo, I like her energy, bro. Like there's and throughout the course of everything, I don't call her aggressive, none of that kind of stuff. I literally just see the energy. I'm like, yo, I like her energy, right? She's got that spunk and that spice. That you can actually be like, oh, okay, look, you're gonna push me. All right, let's get into a little something, right? Let's get into a little tussle. You want to get a little tussle? Let's get into a little tussle. Let's get some stats on the table. Let's start having some real discourse and dialogue. And I don't mind that. I like that. You know what I'm saying? I'll never want to put that down. I like that. I love that portion of the way that she brought herself to the table. So for me personally, I actually didn't have a problem with her in terms of her personality here. I think she gave as good as she got, and she gave the tussle here, and not a problem at all. I'm with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she dropped a few jokes in there as well, and everything like that. I was like, okay. I was like, go on, sis. That. Thank you, Laugh a Bodge. Thank you. This is the assertiveness. Beautiful stuff. This is the assertiveness, right? I never had to call her aggressive. There was nothing aggressive about her. I didn't even call her combative. I didn't say that. All I thought about when I was listening to her, all I thought when I was listening to her is, no, I like the way you're going about, the way you're talking about certain things, right? I don't agree with everything. But you know, yeah, I like the way you're going about it. All right, cool. Let's get into some choppings. You get me? Let's get into some choppings around here. And I actually agree with her. Again, I agree with some of her points here about this situation. I believe some people, okay, were triggered, and even when uh even when even when even when DJ Envy got involved, right? I didn't agree with his first line of questioning because his first line of inquiry was around something I don't agree with. I don't agree with I agree the fact if you don't want to date someone who's a bus driver, I'm with it. My other part was is the part that I had a problem with was the attitude. So the first part of it, I didn't have a problem. Okay, the first part I didn't have a problem, right? So and it did get me thinking about KS. So Lyndon's put a good point, right? KS has similar critiques and he got praised by the BC. But when a black woman says it, if the reception is different, double standards for all. Okay, so when Kevin Samuel said that you're average at best, were you happy? Were you happy? Right? It's not double standards. A lot of guys, the same way a lot of women are backing her right now, is the same way a lot of guys are backing Kevin Samuels. I see a lot of people in that comment section so happy. Yeah, you go after them. You let these black men know. Same way that people are doing the same thing for Kevin Samuels. We're all double standards here, and we're all part of it. There are men and women who are hypocritical because when they got behind Kevin Samuels, and men did get behind Kevin Samuels, and I see how they're getting behind her too. Right? Yeah, you get at these black men. These black men don't know nothing. These black men are slow. They don't want to increase their pace. They just want to stay as average. Y'all happy to denounce and say those things and get behind it because the exact same thing. Both men and women are hypocritical in these instances, and when they find their champion, they get behind it, even at the detriment of the other party. Right? It's the same thing. So either party, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna cancel her in that way, but I will say, you know, I don't agree with everything she said, you know what I mean? You know. But this I liked her the way she was. She's spunky.
Oh, it's always love for 7 years. So then I said to my team, I said, reach out to Ayanla, let's book her, let's bring her on the grill, because I want to have the conversation, and probably more productively, right, y'all? Black woman to black woman.
Yep.
Let's talk to each other. And also generation to generation. Let's talk to each other.
She old.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
was gonna say
you
season.
should hope to get that age.
That's it.
Oh, no, of course.
No alternative.
I want to age. I want to age.
Amen. Gracefully, beautifully. Okay, so Yana comes on, and I say, this is the framing I say to Dr. Vanzar, to Yana. I say, sis, Dr. Zora, talk to me about what you would recommend black women do in terms of our posture and positioning. When you're right, I am showing up in a posture of building, providing, and protecting my own self. I'm showing up in masculine energy, as you would call it. Yep. I'm conceding your point. But tell me how you would guide me to not do so when, I'll be honest, I don't really feel like I can trust that if I don't do it, that there's going to be adequate, keyword there, adequate provision and protection if I don't do it. And
which is how you said it.
That's exactly how I said it, right? And
let's pause it right there. First and foremost, I think she's making some good points, right? So she's making a point about the fact, and actually, how she prefaced it, she's saying she prefaced it. No, she prefaced it with, when I haven't had any man in my life who has been protective and have been a provider. That's how she set up the conversation originally, right? So I haven't had any man to be protective and provider, right? So that's also the added context as well. That's also included in this. Okay, so what she's got her situation. So I agree with part of what she's saying, but she has to add that extra context since she told it in a sense of you personally, you. Okay, you talk about you personally, right? You hadn't had any protection and provision, and then you opened it generally again after by saying it. And I think that's why sometimes the conversation gets blown out, because it gets into personal and then it gets into general. You know what I mean? And also, yes, thank you, Life Bodge. Again, it wasn't about black men, it was about all men, because she said, I've dated men across the spectrum, and it seems to be a failing across all men, not black men, all men, which is why I said I held her to an account the last time, because I said that she was being disingenuous because it wasn't about the black community, because you said all black men. You weren't specific until the second part, when the black men did begin to attack you, and I agree with that, and that's where it got to. So it is that's the biggest problem we're facing here, right? The shift of audience so quickly. Okay, so when You know, so obviously, you know, so she's got a point here in terms of the she wants to have adequate protection and provision from someone, right? Now, baby said this is across the board. Now she dated, you know, I don't know who she's dating. Okay, I don't know, but you know, we'll get into that in a second or two.
Said, beloved, would you date a bus driver? And then the clip goes. And then I did stare into the abyss because I wasn't really sure where we were going. But okay, because she is an elder and she's also my soror in the deference, if you know, you know, I'm going to go with you. So I honestly answered y'all in that moment. If he owned the bus. And that's what I said, Envy. But what people heard based on the comments, that I said bus drivers wasn't shit. People heard that I said that bus drivers broke, don't make no money, ain't got no benefits, and that they were beneath me. That's
Now let's pause it here, and I definitely understand where she's coming from, right? That some people superimpose their viewpoint on what they actually heard, right? So let's be frank, right? That particular aspect. But I want to hold her to account, because we have several conversations, not particularly my platform, but on other platforms and around the YouTube globe, talking about black men when they say they want to date white. They don't even have to even say anything negative about black women, but the tone in the way he said it, I only date white. Now, if I say it in that tone, what would you deduce? If you ask me who do you date, I say I only date white people. And you see my facial expression and my tone, what would you interpret? We don't just interpret a message just by what you said. We interpret it by the tone. We interpret it by the body language. We interpret it by the facial expressions. And anybody who tells you they don't is lying to you. They're lying to you, right? And I don't want to hear it, because I'm not going to debate it, okay? I am not going to debate it, all right? So when you interpret a message, you don't just interpret through what the person said. It's how it's said. It's what words were used. It is through what body language is used, through what facial expression is used, through the way that the message is delivered in a way, right? And that's what I broke down to you about the non-verbal cues, which is 70% of our actual communication. So when we are talking, we're actually doing a lot more non-verbal than verbal. I never said her tone was disrespectful. Again, you're not listening to what I said. When did I say her tone was disrespectful? When did I say her tone was disrespectful? I said how you said it, right, can be judged by. We judge by several measures when it comes to non-verbal cues and how people say things and what they say and what words they use. When did I say her tone was actually off? I didn't say that. See, you're already jumping ahead of the cue. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're jumping ahead of the cue because of how you feel. Stop jumping, because I didn't say that, right? Hold me to what I said, but I didn't say that. So what I'm saying to you is, in her instance, her actual issue was her body language. It was her facial expression, right? It is the way when she asked the question, her first thing was a roll of the eyes, right? And then she had to ask the question a second time. And then when she said, well, if he owns a bus, that's what people were interpreting as the contemptuous attitude, which I did a whole video on, right? So that energy of contempt of an attitude came through the way she said it, right? Okay. Her contemptuous attitude came through in the way she answered the question, right? So now in this instance, the way she delivered the message is the problem. That's it, right? You didn't have to turn your nose up at the bus driver. That's what you did. You came with an energy that said, I'm turning my nose up at this, right? And that actually a lot of people pick up on it, but weren't able to explain it. So they were telling you she's just rude. But when you ask them to explain it, they're not explaining it very well, right? They're just saying, oh, and that's what I said, because the argument cannot be about bus driver. The argument cannot be about a bus driver. I don't care if you want to date a bus driver or not. It cannot be about a bus driver. We cannot be having arguments about women not dating bus drivers, men not dating certain bus drivers. It's irrelevant. If she doesn't want to date a bus driver with her particular status, no, right? It is the snobbery, right? It's a snobbery. And on 3 occasions we've seen her now, she has doubled down and she's even tripled down on this aspect as to why she said what she said. She was trying to trigger. She says it in this interview, right? She said it in this interview. She was trying to trigger, right? So in this moment, when she tried to trigger the situation and trigger the people, that's what she tells us in this interview. And I'm going to show you as we watch the video. She was trying to trigger people for what? Change. So you knew exactly what you did when you answered that question the way you did. Right? We're not having an argument about preferences, Bridget. Yeah? Come off that track. We're not having an argument about preferences. Come off that track. You're losing the battle because we're not having an argument. We agree. So come off the track. Like, leave that track alone. Okay? We are not arguing about preferences. I've already told you, black women, I don't want you to settle. I don't want you to date bus drivers if you are in her shoes. So come off that track. Right? Let's get back into the video. Let's go again.
Somehow was the interpretation of me saying that I will date a bus owner. Now, let me tell you what I actually said, and this is what the whole Holding Court shit was about. Go check that out right now where you get your podcast, Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams featuring Dustin Ross. I said at Holding Court, y'all, let me tell you why ownership is it for me. It's not about salary. Y'all made it about salary. Y'all started debating 125 a year versus 160 a year versus 200 a year.
Well, you did quote stats before you went into the thing with Yaya, man. You talked about women women earn more money than men.
And I talked about black women buying more homes. We buy homes single black women are buying 20% of the market share of new real estate on the market. I know because I just closed last summer and it was a shit show.
If you don't notice what happened, actually, as he tried to hold her accountable, she actually changed the discourse. So it slightly shifted. So what he said was, hey, look, you just said that it wasn't about finances, but actually when you started quoting figures because it was about finances. That's the reason why you're having that conversation with Anyala in the first place. It was about finances, right? And that's why Anyala had to redirect you by saying it's not about finances, about what that individual person, integrity, does he love what he do? Does he this, that, does it that? So what she was saying, so what you're saying about it wasn't about finances doesn't make sense because it was about finances and his status and his job. That's why you're telling him to own the fleet of buses. Now, I'm not concerned. I like the idea of saying we should have a mindset that's about ownership. I like that idea. Right? I like that idea. I generally do like the idea that she started to speak upon, right? And that's where she should have gone on the second video. But instead, no, she wanted to trigger people more because it got the views in. It wasn't about uplifting our community, nor uplifting black men. It really was more about the views. Let's keep it a buck because she prefaced this conversation by saying, we don't get the views the same way that you guys, the Breakfast Club, do. And another show that she mentioned, right? In this aspect, right? So the reality of the situation is, that you know, it was about status, it was about the finances, and that's why Anyala was trying to redirect you to say, hey, babe, look at it differently, pivot, adjust yourself, right? So let's not pretend as if it wasn't about money, right? Let's not pretend it wasn't about money. It was about money. Okay, right? So now if the second video is about you uplifting black men and us uplifting black people, black men and black women as a general whole, then what you should have done in the second video was been like, let me break stuff down for you guys, right? The same way she's about to beautifully break it down here. I think she did a good job here. I believe that I like what she did here. She broke some stuff down here. And if that was what you were trying to uplift, hey, fantastic. But the second double down was about insulting people rather than uplifting. I'm just saying, you triggered people and then you expect them to be nice. I don't know what you were expecting, but you said it's about uplifting.
And underwriting. That's another
They're
conversation.
graduating more. They're in college. Yeah.
I think I said it to you, Charlamagne, because Charlamagne, even you guys do so much work on the Breakfast Club about what HBCUs.
Yep.
And I was devastated when my good friend Eugene Scott sent me a Washington Post article that said black men are going to HBCUs 1 to 2. It's 2 to 1 for black women graduating. So these are things we got to look at, because you have daughters and you have daughters, and some of y'all in here got daughters. And if they're going to want to partner and marry men and black men at that, and they're going to want to build together, as you two cite your marriages as examples of, we gotta talk about how people can be equally yoked. So back to ownership, Charlamagne. I said ownership is key for me.
But
Why?
Now this makes sense as to why. Because I was thinking at first, why did DJ Envy come at her first about the marriage thing? Because you just tried to cite that these two men are talking about marriages, etc., but you didn't marry black either, baby. So I think that's why he came at her with that comment. It's like, wait, hold on, you're going to try to reference marriages and about making black women, black men into marriages. Baby, you didn't even marry black. So I think that's why he came at her that particular way, right? Because I was at first, I was like, okay.
Not about everybody being a Harvard surgeon. This is about this book right here, Bet on Black. You've read it, Charlamagne. Y'all were at the party. Y'all know what time it is. It's hard to be free in America as a black person when you don't own anything. That's fair. I mean that with my fiber in my being, and I'm going to prove it to you. My grandfather, Kerry James Williams, had a 4th grade education in Mount Pelier, Louisiana. He then provided for my family with everything needed by doing 5 things at one time. That man cut hair. He made and sold moonshine. He cut graveyards on the weekend. He also worked a salary job at a feed mill. If you know about that feed mill life, then you know. My point in this is saying this, and then he raised my mother, Gloria, who also did not complete college. She took 2 years at Texas Southern. She said, how much? 50,000. It ain't gonna be that for me. And she pieced out. And she started her own business. She drove the bus. So for all of y'all in the comments, well, my daddy drove a bus. Well, my mama drove a bus. My mother drove a bus as well, y'all. She drove a bus until she acquired a skill set. In her case, it was cosmetology. She drove the bus in the morning, the school bus. She would get off the bus. She would go to Universal Beauty School off of Beatties Ford Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. She would then get back on the bus, drive the afternoon shift. Then she would come check on me, make sure that I was doing what I needed to do. And then she would go drive for UPS. So for those of y'all talking to me like I don't know what a CDL license can do, I helped my mom study for a CDL when I was 9 years old. I promise you I know about that life. My point is this. It's about skills. It is nothing wrong with driving a bus if that is your maximum skill set. I simply want to call Black America up to the excellence that I know we can occupy. I've seen it before. Entrepreneurship.
Now pause. What part of her message? Let me ask this. What part of her message in the first 2 was uplifting? That's the point. What part of your message out of the 2 that you dropped was uplifting? None. Right? None of it was uplifting. That's the whole point. If you're telling me this is what you want to see from our community, what part of your message was uplifting? Some of you were even complaining, Kojo, this is your 4th message on this black woman. Why are you talking about her all the time, this black woman? You had I was even being nice, and you were coming on my ass because I was talking about a black woman. And now you want to tell me about tone policing? That we're tone policing black women now? But I've been generally nice. I've been trying to tell you guys that this is not the right thing to do. This is not the right thing to do. And you be telling me about how I should not say certain things. So I don't know why we're saying all of a sudden we're confused about tone policing. Everybody gets tone policed, number 1, right? We all do. Can't just say anything anyhow, however you want to say it, right? You know what I mean? So you can't just say anything anyhow. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. You're going to offend people. Stop that nonsense. You know for sure that tone policing happens to everybody. Y'all even do it to me. So let's be real. This is not it. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm saying is that this was not. I love this, Lyndon. I love this. I just hope that you can dish. I hope as you're dishing, you're able to receive it. I just hope that as you're giving, you can receive. Because remember, as you're saying this is okay, as we can say it however we want because we feel the way we do. Just remember, there's a whole nother side of a community who are saying the exact same thing. Well, since you're saying how you want to say it, let's say it the way we want to say it to you too. We don't like certain things that you do, right? I've told you guys this. Some things that Red Pill and Manosphere say is absolutely true. Absolutely. But the way they say it, it's problematic. And I always say this, the way they deliver certain things. In fact, today, it happened today. Earlier on, our brother Chairman came on the panel and he said it, and one person was like, a young lady said, you know what, you've made some good points. You know what, you've made some points I've heard even in a red pill, but you know what, the way you said it is different. So don't tell me about tone policing because you want it in a particular way as well. So when we are delivering messages to each other, there's a way we should be able to deliver this. That's why I said that there's too many hypocrites, because when I go into this chat, when I go into the comment section of this video, I see a lot of supposed black women in the chat, in the comment section going, yeah, give it to them. Yeah, they need to know. And when the same thing happens to you, the first word that comes out your mouth is misogyny. Not you personally. Not you personally. I'm just talking about as a general consensus sometimes on the internet, right? When myself, Sean, and Corey had our first conversations about some of our things we see in the community, right? The first thing they called us was, we're Kevin Samuels Little and Kevin Samuels Jr. So tone is important. People don't like things to be delivered in a particular type of way. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're going to be okay with this, and it's not derogatory, then just be okay when they start doing, because it's not going to be me. I'm going to keep my same lane. I don't want to, do it in a particular way, you know what I mean? But if they start doing certain stuff, then you won't have no leg to stand on. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if I called you mediocre to your face, I don't care what anybody says. You've never interpreted mediocre as being, well, that's a great thing to, I mean, he's been nice to me. Yeah, he's been nice to me. He's been nice to me. If I called you mediocre to your face, I don't care what any of you lot say. You take that offensively. You know what I mean? If I say to you, you're mediocre, are you telling me you're going to accept that? I'm like, oh, yeah. Come on. I love that. I love the way you're saying that. You ain't going to say that. Never have we put mediocre in our generation as being something, as just being average. Mediocre is an insult. It is to, and I'll give, when she quoted the word, I wish she quoted the whole way through and gone through dictionary explanations, because the dictionary explanation actually tells you it is used as a derogative term. Just saying, right? But we're going to get there, okay? We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Okay? So we both want the same grace. That's what I'm saying to you, right? I want the same grace as well. We want the same grace. I hear you, Miss Ernie. I hear you. Yes, she is being attacked across the globe, and I definitely hear that, right? I definitely hear that, right? And I'm not condoning those attacks, which is why we're having this conversation here, so that we can bring a different perspective. And so that you can call other people to say, hey, look, there's another space that we don't do those things. We don't start calling people out like the way they do. We're not trying to do that, So, do you know what I'm saying? But let's continue.
Is the key to me. That's not just me talking. That's Earl Graves Sr., the founder and visionary of Black Enterprise. It's about Black enterprise, Black ownership, and Black liberation. And it is important to me. It's in my DNA. It's my personal legacy. Because my mama told me, y'all, nobody will pay you what you will pay you. And this is not about shaming bus drivers. But I want to be clear. If you are driving a bus today, and that is the maximum of your skill set, I love and appreciate it for you. I have to, because it's an honest day's living. But I want to tell you the truth. And this is not about hurting feelings or talking down or being an elitist. I need you to know that in 10 years, you may or may not have a job.
Now, let's pause this. You may not have a job. That's the whole point. But you ain't talking. And this is my thing. You see, we're shifting goalposts. I don't like people shifting goalposts. It's not about the fact that his job could change in 10 years' time. See, now you're being disingenuous, because let me not say disingenuous. Let me change that, right? Now we're shifting the goalpost, because it's got nothing to do with the fact his job could be obsolete in 10 years' time. Nothing at all. It's got nothing to do with his job or her job being obsolete in 10 years' time. That ain't the thing. Nobody's job is safe. Look, I worked in banking, and one of my biggest fears was always, this job will not be here forever. It won't. Because I saw technology coming, and one of my prayers was, God, get me out of it before it crumbles, because I know banking is going to change. Okay? I know it's going to crumble. I know banking is going to change. Okay, I know banking's gonna be upgraded soon, right? So I was like, one of my prayers to Lord was, Lord, get me out of it before it changes, because my job will be obsolete very soon. It genuinely will be, right? But how does that impact me saying that your job is mediocre? How does that make? Do I go now into a bank and be like, bro, your job is mediocre? I can't lie to you. Just saying, your job is mediocre. I'm just saying. It doesn't prompt me now to say that, right? You know, so using this example of shifting it to like, well, what I was trying to say was because your job would be obsolete. No, you weren't. You doubled down and you were saying how that you were saying again how it was mediocre. SNG77, you're shifting the goalposts. We're not discussing that, whether people are behind or not. What we're discussing is how did you deliver the message? She's actually talking a lot of truth, and I'm telling you, I agree with her. When I'm agreeing with her, I'm agreeing on points. But let's not move the argument from where it is at the moment. Okay, all right. You know, let's be real in terms of what she's actually saying and address what she's actually saying. You know what I mean? All right. Linda said Eboni and Manosphere talking points are not equivalents. You can say that. To you, that's your truth. To somebody else, that's their truth. And they're thinking that your truth is not the truth. I don't agree with them, right? But the reality is when you try to trigger people on purpose, that's some of the tactics that they do use. They want to trigger you, you know? Just saying. And again, not everything they say is bad. There's a lot of good stuff they say, which is very true. Just mixing a lot of toxicity, that's all. You know what I mean? Like, but there's a lot of truth they say. They say a lot of truth on that side.
Because AI. Artificial intelligence. See, this is the part nobody wants to talk about.
The lawyers might not have a job in 10 years.
They might not. And that's why I'm glad you're going there, Charlamagne, because this is the part of the conversation that people really are feeling triggered by. We all have to reassess constantly our skill set and how it's applicable today and how it might or might not be applicable tomorrow. So this goes back to everybody in the comments. Well, my daddy drove a bus and he did this and this.
Again, what does that got to the message that she dropped? She's absolutely right. Absolutely right. But how would him owning the buses mean now that he's not going to be obsolete from AI? How does that mean anything? Right? What does that mean anything? How does that stop? How does that guarantee that AI won't come and take his job? How do I guarantee myself in YouTube that AI won't come and replace me? Come on now. Come on. You're making good points, but that's not the point you were making. And now you're kind of shifting it to make it acceptable. Come on. Yeah, let's be real. Let's just be real a little bit.
And he was respectful. He was a good black man. He was a great black man. I'm sure all the bus drivers are saints, and none of them cheat, and none of them beat women, and they all are just God-fearing men that show up and how they're supposed to in this world. I believe
not all, but I'm saying
no, that's the narrative.
It's sarcasm.
That's the narrative. Yeah. And all people that dare to own, that dare to advance a skill set in a different kind of way, not a better way or a worse way, a different kind of way. They all have full-blown AIDS, beat their wives, and will die alone. That's the narrative.
What Tyler Perry movie is this?
I have no clue what narrative this is. I don't know any narrative where somebody says, where people are saying that all rich people, people who own things, are gonna get AIDS and die. I've just never heard it. I don't know. I've never heard it. Okay, all right. I've never heard it before. Okay, ain't never heard it. Right? Ain't never heard it. So I don't know what she's talking about. If someone could tell me what that particular narrative is, please, I would love to know. Maybe it's for rich people kind of narrative. I've never heard that narrative of what people who own businesses and stuff like that are gonna get AIDS and die off, and then I've just never heard it. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. We might have to cancel that one. You know what I mean? Absolutely, Felicia. No one's job is safe, and that's the point. No one's job is safe. I realize this, not to get comfortable. Nobody's job is safe. Nobody, right? Nobody, because AI will fix AI. See, you might even think maybe I should be an engineer and fix robots. AI will fix AI. You won't have a job, maybe, We might, by all means, so nothing is ever safe. What you need to do, what we do need to be, what she is right about though, is having skill sets where you are able to transfer it. Meaning you should be somebody who's industrious, somebody who's a quick learner, somebody who's willing to change, somebody who's willing to pivot, somebody who's willing to learn, someone's willing to grow, someone's willing to have wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Those are the essential qualities one needs. You know? Now, of course, the rich will always be the rich, but there will always be people who will fall out. But the rich will always be the rich, and I'm talking about the wealth, not the normal, not the rich, but the wealthy. Those who control and have power, they're always going to have that situation. Okay, all right, that's always going to have that situation. All right, so you know what I mean. So we got to be ready because you never know.
That's what I'm saying.
It's temptation.
They about the bus drivers that their goal was to own a home, and what if they came from something that necessarily wasn't the best education? And driving the bus is.
I think we got to broaden the conversation. I think we keep using words like bus drivers.
This is what bothers me, to make it seem like bus drivers only drive buses.
Why would you talk about bus drivers?
Because let's generalize.
We can talk bus drivers. We can talk police officers. We can talk MTA workers. We can talk all these different people that work at these quote unquote average jobs.
Everyday working class people.
Now this is my problem, right? Now you know I do real estate and I do these seminars all across the country, right? We get thousands of people. The majority of people that own homes and investment homes are your quote unquote average workers, all your bus drivers, all your MTA workers. So they just don't drive buses. They have properties. I know a police officer that drives Ferraris because it's not from his police job. It's from the houses that he owns that he made off to the police job.
Now, here's my thing. Love DJ Envy, but he made her point. Like, he made her point. Look, I'm never going to lie. Yeah, he made her point. Okay, so you made her point, right? Because her point was, when she's talking to Anyala, is if that guy owns the buses, then she's down. So he actually just made her point, right? You know, this is why you got to think about your arguments. I'm not going to lie to you. He made her point. I'm never going to try to ignore something and be like, it never existed. No, sir, you just made her point, right? You just made her point. That you're saying that normal people that you're talking about, they're not normal at that point. That's in my chair, right? But that bus owner you're talking about owns a house, owns this. Then you're making her point. Those men would fall into the bracket that she is, which is why I said the argument isn't about her wanting a man who owns things. This is why I said that anybody making their argument on a premise of her choosing a preference is going to fall flat real quick. Because the argument cannot be about preference, because whatever your preference is your preference. Right? If that's your preference, baby. If you don't want to bus truck, we agree with you. But yeah, DJ Envy, in that moment, you just made her point. Okay, you just literally made her point in that industry, which is why I said my point. My point was never about her having a preference. My point was about what? The way she went about it. Okay, the expression.
Got from the cocaine.
I'm 1,000%. I'm 1,000%.
I'm playing. That's a joke.
He has more properties than you, me, and Charlamagne put together. That's who he is.
That's a joke.
But they take it serious. But I know these people that do it, and they put in hard work. So when you said I wouldn't date a bus driver unless he owned his own bus, a lot of people felt it like, yo, that's disrespectful, because just because I took a job, and a lot of people take those jobs for a couple of different reasons. One, the benefits, right? They know they can work for 20 years. After 20 years, they can retire and they still get their retirement and they still get their benefits. So after 20 years, they can. Most police officers, the same thing. They get their retirement, they can still carry their firearm, and they can still get their benefits. So I look at it as that's a great hustle. They work for 20 years. At the end of 20 years, let's say they start at 21. At 41, they done working the bus company, done being a police officer, done being MTA, and now they just making money on top of money. So it's value over values, right?
Envy, let me stop you right there.
It's not.
Do you think for 1 second, and I know you don't know me that well, but we've had enough conversation. I had you on Revolt Black News. You talked to me about your father, who was a leader in law. Do you think for 1 second I'm about to push back on anything you just offered in that statement?
You can't.
Right. So I cannot. And so what I'm telling you is what you are applying now is not the facts as they were given to me. Ayala did not ask me, Eboni, would you date a bus driver that also had a real estate portfolio?
And I agree. I absolutely agree with this point. This is where I said I'm with her on this point, right? I'm totally with her on this point. Okay? All right? I'm totally with her on this point. So this part, I'm agreeing because he made her point. Like, what do you not realize what you said? Do you not realize what you just said? And this is why I said that a lot of people, when they're having an argument, the emotion is what's leading the logical argument, because the argument isn't about her preference. You can't argue preference, because if we do, we're going to get into a sticky situation. I know some women will argue about color preference. That's their business, and I haven't got time for that. But we're going to talk about the fact that you arguing about her choosing a man in terms of financial bracket, yeah, that ain't it. Okay, that ain't it, right? And even me watching even that small clip, it was never about her choosing about it. It makes no point. It makes no sense to question her preference. So he's now making her point because I don't think he's able to fully articulate what he feels. Yes, he feels slighted. What is it you're feeling? And this is why I talk about emotional intelligence. And this is why I talk about being able to piece together language sometimes to what you're seeing, right? Because what I was seeing is what I believe a lot of men were also feeling, but had no words to put to what they were seeing, right? What you saw was somebody being contemptuous. What you saw was someone being a little bit snooty and snobbish about their choice in not dating a bus driver, but you couldn't put your finger on it because you had no words for it. So now the argument becomes about something that actually isn't the argument. The preference isn't the argument. You know what I mean? You feel me?
Ayala did not ask me. Hold on now. Ebony, would you date a bus driver that also has a litany of franchises? Because you and your wife just bought 5, right? Six crystals? Crystal burgers. Okay. She didn't ask. That was not the framing of the question, Envy. Had that been the framing of the question, I would have said, Dr. Vons, where the fuck he at?
And so this is very fair. I have to back her on this. This would have been very fair. If it was presented that way, would she have said yes? I believe she would have. If it was presented that way, I believe she would have, because she already made that argument in that video. Right? Because she already said he owns the bus fleet. Okay. So I believe that if it had been presented that way, she would have said yes, I would take that man. So I have no qualms to argue her on this point. She's absolutely right, and she has every right to argue this point down because it's a wrong point. Okay, all right. And he's lost this round. Like, it's a TKO. Okay, all right. It's a technical knockout because there's nowhere else to go. After what he just said, there's nowhere else to go. All right. There's nowhere else to go. All right. Let's go.
Oh, that's man saying all the properties that I own, or do you get to know that man and see what he's about?
But see, that's semantics now. Now it's semantics.
Here's the thing, y'all didn't listen to the whole Ayanla interview.
Go ahead, Sean.
Ebony actually agreed with Ayanla. That's what's confusing me, because you actually agreed with Ayanla when she talked about, you should be open to dating a bus driver. You can build with a bus driver. You actually agreed with that. So that was confusing me.
You agreed with Ayanla, then also conflated more and said, a loving man, someone that loves what they does. There was a whole lot of other things. So she agreed that, of course, I want a loving man. I want a man that's passionate. I want a man with a plan. All the other things that came after the bus driver is what Ebony agreed to.
Yeah, so I say, why let the griot put out a clip that is more salacious and out of context when you actually did agree with
I'm not going to throw the griot under the bus. See what I did there? But what I am going to do, is say that we know the business that we are in. So you said something, Charlamagne, on the show yesterday. We're like, we're entertainers, and we have to not over index for our. Okay, so I want to be clear. My beloved, oh my God, I'm actually not an entertainer. I'm not. I'm an educator. I'm an advocate. I happen to use the form of television, radio, and podcasting to do my work. See.
Okay, so this is really important. So she said she's not an entertainer, which is fair. She's not an entertainer. She says she's not an entertainer. She's, she's an educator, which, fair enough, no problem at all. I would only ask then in this instance, because unfortunately that clip went viral, and then the second video after, we didn't get a chance to hear the education. We're hearing it now, but we didn't get to hear the education on the second part, right? We didn't get to hear the education on the second part. Okay, so that's the issue that we missed here. Okay, all right. So I think that aspect is also important to kind of deduce as well. That's a fair point. She might do. She might turn up her nose. I mean, it could be, right. It could be that she might turn up her nose. I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Now, the benefit of the doubt is I'm sure that man would have to introduce himself and say, yes, I'm a bus driver, but I own such and such. You know what I mean? And I want to be fair and say that nobody who has more going for them starts a conversation off by saying, I just drive buses. You know what I mean? Like, if you do more than that, you're more than likely to say you do more than that. You know what I mean? So I would say I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that I feel like if you were to introduce yourself, would you introduce yourself as just a bus driver if that's all you had going for you? I don't think you would, right? So I want to be fair. I want to be fair on that aspect and say, I personally know I wouldn't, when I introduce myself, I'd just say I'm a content creator, right? I might say YouTuber or content creator because usually people know the gravity and the worth of that job. So I don't need to say anything, right? So, so I want to be fair in that aspect, right? And say that. So if I want to introduce myself, I might say I'm a YouTuber or a content creator, right? Now, what happened? Oh, snap. Did I get, they took me off. Say copyright. They got me, boy. They said none of the clips. These people, man. Oh, wait, are we back? Oh, okay. Great. Because they did give me a copyright. They gave me a copyright. So I'm going to have to take it off and come back on. They gave me a copyright. I can't lie to you. Woo, baby. They gave me a copyright. So, madness in the dunya. All right, cool. So I have to deal with that after. They gave me copyright for this. But no, so I think... I think in reality, I think the situation with, what she was saying, I actually agree with her. I think that she would be able to. I think she's actually right in this aspect, right? Because I think I necessarily wouldn't bring myself to a point where I would literally say, I'm a bus driver. Right, because I know the social standing behind the job bus driver. I think I personally would be like, yo, I do such and such. And I know this because I've introduced myself. So I want to be fair and give it some grace in that aspect, right? That's the part I would give it some grace. So let's just play. Hopefully they don't take me off again. I'm going to try and play it from behind the scenes. Hopefully they don't kill me up.
We can't conflate form with purpose. So why did the griot and the brilliant, talented team of journalists over there decide to use the bus driver clip, which is sensational and controversial? Because let's be honest, the griot is not getting the eyeballs the Breakfast Club is getting. Vault Black News is not getting the eyeballs the Breakfast Club is getting, or The View is getting, or The Talk used to get. Because the nature of not just Black culture, of American culture, is entertainment first. So when you start...
Okay, so sorry, I have to play a bit of music behind it because then it might just stop us from kind of getting lost a little bit. Of the situation, right? So we'll play a bit of music behind it. Okay, so as you was to say, let me I say I'm playing with fire in it. I know, but the interview's too good, man. Let's just play this.
Who is getting, or The Talk used to get. The not just Black culture, of American culture, is entertainment first. So when you start doing the work of educating around where artificial intelligence is taking the culture, where you start doing the work about where criminal justice reform, how this summer, the U.S. Supreme Court, y'all, affirmative action, as we all know, that shit is gone. Know that. But no one is going to watch in the volume that we need to have the impact that I seek as a teacher in this world, Charlamagne, if we don't put out that clickbait. That's the reality.
Okay, so she told us herself, right? She did this for the clickbait. Okay, she did this for the clickbait. And I understand what she's saying, right? I get it. The clickbait is what brings all the boys to the yard. You're damn right. It's better than yours, okay? So the clickbait brings everybody to the cribbo. I'm with her, right? I get it, all right? I understand it. It brings people to the place, okay? But unfortunately, what has the conversation turned into? Right? What has the conversation turned into? Okay? So you got a moment from Anyala. She gave you what you wanted, right? But what did the conversation turn into? It's turned into you not about uplifting our community, right? Because the very people you're trying to educate, those very people who are already educated, who are uplifting, are already doing that job already. So yes, they can interpret your message in a different way. Those who are not uplifting already, when you drop your message, they're not going to change how they view their message. They're going to view it through the same lens. I think Anyala has responded. I saw a particular YouTuber, and I think Anyala responded, but I'm not sure where she responded at. I was trying to find where she responded. It might be somewhere on YouTube, but I think Anyala might have responded apparently. So she put a little post up about what she responded to, but I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know. Apparently she responded a little bit, but yeah. Okay. Let's play them more.
So it was to bring attention to a larger
And
conversation.
guess what? What we know, because we all sitting here today talking about this shit a week later, is it worked.
It worked.
But then you came back and the next day people feel like you doubled down. on
I
what you
didn't
said.
don't feel like I did.
Okay.
I stood 10 toes down.
And
But
what did
I
you say
don't think
when
that
you-
was
when you-
standing down though. I think you completely like took a different turn.
I
Like, that
agree.
was
Okay, cool. So beautiful stuff, right? So now they're talking about obviously the fact that, you know what, if someone can send me the thing on Instagram, if you send me the where she responded on Instagram, I'll put it up on the screen as well, guys. So if anyone knows what Anyala responded, just send it to me on Instagram and I will respond accordingly. I'll put it up so we can talk about it. But yeah, no, yeah. So you know, it's you know, the situation here, in this situation with what she just said here. She admitted and said, listen, hey, look, everybody's talking about the situation now. So job is done, right? Which is fair. I don't want to be mad at it. Like, it's fair. You know what I mean? That part did. And, you know, the community is a buzz, a light. I've done 4 or 5 videos now talking about this issue. So clearly it does do its job in terms of being viral. But has it done its job in terms of educating? You know what I mean? All right.
I agree.
I
told
actually
you
thought it was tough
I
to
agree.
watch. And you know I love you, but like
No, you know, but I feel you, but that has nothing that got nothing to do with it. Tina told us that. So go ahead. I want
because
to
to me 10 toes down would have been like, yeah, this is the choice that I'm making, this is my preference, this is the type of man I want. What I watched were you talking about people as a whole,
Right.
and even white supremacy, bringing up, calling, saying average, like it to me it felt like almost attack on the working class and the people that were in the comments more than it was the man you're looking for.
So let's
I
address
agree.
it, Weezy. I'm glad you
Love
brought that
that.
up because that is the
So
term that I
we-
took. So at this point, who gives a
So Weezy called at her all the way out. I love that. She said, hey, look, before you start talking about, you know, you said 10 toes down. You didn't stand 10 toes down. And this is why I said that that her message was incoherent because it was mixed with pain and hurt. Just like Kevin Samuels. There was a lot of good things that I said, that some advices that Kevin Samuels would give, but a lot of it was mixed with pain and hurt. And so it became toxic, abusive, controlling, and actually it became a problem. But in this message, the second one she did, it got mixed with the pain and the hurt that she had, and it became a poor message and became one of attack rather one than education. Right? So unfortunately, she's right. You know, like in this instance, she's right, because you, instead of you educating the masses in that moment, you didn't choose it. You've waited till now. You're on Breakfast Club after the 4th day, after about almost a week and a bit, to now talk about educating us. But actually, what you should have done was in that second video was come out and actually respond and educate people. But she didn't. Because the pain got to her, and so she responded in the pain, and it took away her message. See, so the first video done its job. It got people into the door. But if you are not healed, sometimes you can rob yourself of the opportunity to deliver the message you deliver. So now the message has been disformed. right? The message has been disformed, right? And the people you're trying to even get at, they're not listening, right? So let's keep it a buck. Women are listening, but they've always been listening. The men don't care. You know what I mean? There are very few men saying, you know what? Yeah, nah, she broke it down, you know. Yeah, that she broke it down, you know. Nah, she broke it down, and actually, I'm hearing what she's saying. Do you see the men saying that? Do we see the men now look, oh, we need to improve? You know? Like, we need to get better. Do we? Because the very people that would help the conversation get to that place, it should be Charlemagne and DJ Envy, who would be like, you know what? You made some good points. Let's back you. Let's back you. And then, do you know what? Then, when DJ Envy and Charlemagne give the go-ahead, the men who follow them will be like, yeah, she's talking truth. Let's follow what she's saying. And that's the point. That's not what's going to happen, because the very people that you need to follow you are you dragging them. Your allies who you need on your side to help that message get to those very people are being dragged. You know what I mean? No, there's some truth to that, Lillian. Yes, men don't often listen to women. Very, very true. But when then when you link up with other men who are supposedly meant to be respected in the space of other men, men will listen. Right? When you link up with other men and allyship with those other men, those men will listen. Right? You have to get to the gatekeepers of communities to be able to get them to listen if you are disenfranchised or you feel like you're not able to get through. And all if she just got DJ Envy and Charlemagne on site, I'm telling you, the comment section will be different. It'll be like, men will be like, do you want we saw we see? Right? But because she was 10 tones down, she could have even made this to her own advantage. She could have been like, do you know what? I'm going to spin it. Guys, I'm even sorry. My bad. You know what? I really wanted to get men to focus on this. I apologize. You could have spun it and won them that way. You didn't have to mean it. Could have lied. Okay? All right? She could have lied about it, to be honest. You know? Yeah, she could have lied about it. Like, guys, I'm sorry. You know what? My bad. I was wrong about it. Would have called these men down and then hit them with facts. You see, you have to understand how the ego works of men. You play to the ego and then you gotta hit them with that. Do you know what I mean? You might want a few more men. I don't personally, I just don't think this is going to work in the way you want it to work, right? Same way me dragging women is not going to get women to listen to me, right? In the way that I want them to change. If I want to bring change to a situation, me dragging women, black women, it's not going to help. You know what I mean? It's not going to help. Dragging ain't helping.
Fuck about who Eboni K. Williams is dating. Let's throw that over to the side because it's irrelevant.
That's your preference. I agree.
And who gives a fuck, right? So now let's talk about my real work in this world, the work God has called me to do, which is to always sit in a posture of elevating, advancing, and offering options to Black Americans for us to have a first-class existence. So when I talk about a permanent Black underclass, that's something that I talked about in the response video that Weezy citing. A lot of people felt a way about that. What the fuck does she mean, a permanent Black underclass? What I mean is the data. So I sent Charlemagne a bar graph from the U.S. Census yesterday, and it listed about 15 different global identities. So again, you got to zoom out for this. This is not about Black folks and white folks in America. This is global. At the top of that, y'all, this is earnings.
Okay, so this is a really good point as well that she makes, right? She makes a good point about our financial earnings. Okay, all right. She makes the financial earnings of our communities, and actually lets us know that I think is it Indian or Asian? They're at the top with I think 100K average. White middlemen, white race. They are I think 56, I think that's 60,000 or something like that. And then you've got obviously what you call it, Black people at the bottom who are 26, 28,000 on average, okay, in a particular household. Now, this is a really strong point. Strong point.
Indian Americans earn more than anybody else in America. At the very bottom, Black Americans. It's like they were earning about $100,000 per year per average, not a few, not half. 100% of their average is 100,000 plus. We were down here at around 28,000, 30,000. Okay, we're white people in the middle. They went up here, so that's why I have a personal problem with a lot of the culture saying that we should not have to be excellent. We talked about this, Charlamagne, yesterday on the phone. We should get.
Can I ask this question? Who's telling people not to be excellent? And I don't know, maybe I'm missing it, but if I remember correctly, most of us are still suffering PTSD from having to be 2 times better than everybody else. Who's telling that we don't have to be excellent? I'm not saying there isn't unexcellent people. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying there isn't people who are not excellent, but if I remember correctly, most of us, and again, this comes down maybe to education as well, you know, et cetera, but you know, I want to say that excellent. Who's been teaching us and saying we shouldn't be excellent? Who's been accepting mediocre? Who's been saying that we should be average? When? No. When have we said that? I'm not talking about what other races have said. I said, when have we said that? When have we said that? When have you heard us as a culture saying we can be average? When do you hear that? I mean, personally, I don't know. Maybe it's just me again. It might just be me again. I just don't hear that message. When I hear, and maybe again, maybe I'm talking from a privileged perspective in terms of being in education. Maybe I'm coming from an educated background, but whenever I look at even those who are doing sports, y'all can't just coast. Y'all have to at least make certain grades before you can even play sports. They make it a requirement right now. It doesn't have to be A's per se, but you have to earn a certain amount of grades to be able to even play sports to a certain degree, right? Because they want to make sure they uplift and help people. Now, of course, there's some cheating in that. So, to be honest, you know, yeah, we can talk about that another time, right? But, you know, I'm expecting like, yo, okay. I did not know that we're doing that. Now, are there parts of our community that are silly and don't respect intellectualism? Yeah, like in every community. You know what I mean? Okay, that's fair. If Kenya's saying, okay. So we're talking about being raised to make A's. Okay. The boys not raised to make A's. Okay, if that's the case, then I hear that. Okay. I hear you on that. So you've been okay. Maybe I've never been in these rooms. I've been in a room in the clubhouse where black people have said that education doesn't matter. It's only for bougie people. I'm not saying the majority of our people. Okay. I hear that. Maybe I'm from a privileged background again, so I'm going to be honest. Maybe I can't give an accurate depiction of this, but I'm not aware of this meshing. Now, am I aware of the fact that, you know, in terms of a lack of marketing towards that? Yes. You know, as well. So I'm definitely hearing you on that. Okay. They say A's are corny. Man, I see the same thing in white folk. I think the only person, and this is maybe the reason why, the only people that I've never seen that from, right? And bear in mind, white folk were winning. The only people I ever saw that from was the Asian community. specifically Chinese, Korean, that particular demographic. They were the only ones that ever said that I ever heard, that were never like, yo, you have to make sure you get this grade. Like, don't even think about it. But for us, blacks and whites were exactly the same. So why was it the whites were able to go past us? It's really about the application. It is about the access to resources of knowledge. The key thing here is not just education or school. It is access to resources. And where can you get these resources? Like, for instance, if we're going to get a grant to start a business, where'd you go to get this grant from? It is often the access of knowledge that is the issue behind us, not just education. Education is part of it, though. And I agree. It's education, but also an aspect of where do we get these resources from? You know? So the access is the biggest issue. The access, right? So we have to have that conversation. You know what I mean? We do have to have a conversation about that. So it's about being able to reveal where that access is coming from. So that's probably where the education needs to be on, right? That's probably where the education needs to be on. Where do you get the access to this? There also needs to be some nepotism as well, right? Because there's a lot of nepotism in the white community, if you want to talk about that, right? And I'm not even shooting them down, I'm being real. There's a lot of nepotism in the community. As well, right? So in that aspect, right, when it comes to this, we need to be putting each other on. Okay. I'm not talking about, I never spoke about that kind of education. Education by books does not mean you're going to be into entering wealth. It is access to certain types of knowledge that allows us to win. So it's not just the book and the schooling. I'm talking about access to resources, as in, like, for instance, I'm just going to give an example, right? Specific grants to start specific businesses. You know what I mean? Certain ways that we handle our accountancy, right? How do you know what I mean? Like, there are little knowledges and nuggets that make major differences to the way that we play the game. Okay, and so we have to have that honest conversation that we need to be better at. If anything, I would agree with you and say we need to be better at the way that we teach and bring about knowledge of certain nuggets that help us to be able to break through certain things, right? So that we can access more. And so that I definitely see what you're saying. Yeah. So bad they would try holding back children in kindergarten and first grade, worked as a teacher assistant. Yeah, that's political. That's political. I hear that.
To be basically as mediocre, as average as white Americans. For me, that's a no. I'm gonna tell you why. I travel the world. Y'all all travel the world. Y'all are global citizens, and we're blessed and privileged to do so. I got news for y'all. White mediocrity is depreciating fast. So I'm not gonna hold white mediocrity, white subpar, white averageness as a standard for the generation of black children we're raising today.
Well, what does America do without the working class?
First of all, it's not about not having a working class. It's saying that why do black people, I'm so glad you asked this, why do black people disproportionately occupy it? Now, you made a very good point yesterday, Charlamagne, talking about essential workers, okay? America found out, if we didn't know before, how essential our bus drivers, our MTA drivers, our home health nurses, our custodians, our grocery store workers were during fast food, all of it during COVID. And God knows we were ringing those pots and shouting them out, and God bless our essential workers. Nobody loves them more than your girl here. But you know what I don't love is that black folks died at a 2-to-1 rate of during COVID, that black folks were on ventilators more often during COVID. And part of the reason why that was the case, y'all, is because we over-index in the blue-collar working sector, in the essential jobs. And many of us don't have the option that we all had, which was to do our jobs virtually. So
I don't know the stats on that. She may be right. She may be right on that. I don't know. She may be right. I don't know. I don't know about that part. That part I'm not educated in that aspect, so I'm not gonna comment and act as if I know. That part I do not know. So that part I will pass on and say, do you know what? I will have to trust her judgment on that. I don't have the knowledge on that particular aspect. Maybe I need to go and research a bit more deeper on that as well, right?
We are on the front lines in a way that disproportionately makes us vulnerable. We're dying because of it. That is my issue. Not to disrespect these people.
I feel like you're changing the goalposts, right? What people were upset about was what you said, and everything that you said could absolutely positively be true. People were upset that they felt like that you were putting down the average person, quote unquote, average job, and the person that was working the average job, that their what they do is not as good as what you do.
That's a projection, Envy.
No,
Envy, that's a projection. Because
I'll let you speak.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So when you start talking about all this, and I read the comments just like you did because I wanted to prepare myself when you came up here to understand what people were mad about, and understand what people were upset about. So when you're talking about all this brother this and the black man this and the white supremacy this and this, that, and the other, that's all to the side of how you felt about that quote unquote average job, right? And I'll be honest with you, right? One of the comments that I said,
so I think this is where this conversation is important too, because I think he tries to highlight to her that, you know what, the way the way that you're delivering the message, you didn't realize you stepped on toes. And you know, he said that she changed the goalpost because the inspirational message is beautiful, but that's not the message you brought, which is very true. Okay, her message was never about this uplift community. This is a real this is a real conversation. Don't get twisted. But it was about your preference in you dating who you wanted to date. This was never about uplifting black men, black women, or the working class. Okay. So, you know, yes, I hear what she's saying, but again, it's away from the actual conversation, because that conversation was about you rejecting a blue collar man. That's it.
And maybe I'm not sure, right? The guy was like, you talk about all this about lifting the brother up and lifting this up and white supremacy and what you do for our people. And then the first thing the brother said was, but your fiance was white. And I'm sitting there like, how do you talk about how much you're uplifting and how much you're going for black people, but that's not necessarily what you're even looking for?
Well, first of all,
Paging Dr. Umar, damn.
Well, let's address it. And let's not skip a beat. So I would love to know how you, Envy, know what I'm looking for. We never had the conversation.
I don't know. I'm telling you what people are saying on comments, what I've read, and I'm talking.
I mean, this is a fair point. Y'all, not you guys, but they'd be asking, if a black successful man dates a white woman, they'll be like, who are you dating? How can you talk about the community when you out here dating a white woman? They would say the exact same thing, right? So, I mean, I hear what he's saying. I don't think it's a be all and end all. It's not a stick I'm going to beat her over the head with, but the reality is, they ask black men when they're successful, who do you go and date? If you go and date a white woman, they're going to, so how are you going to talk about, you know, progressing the black community when you're out here dating white men? And I think it's a fair question. As those men who date white women, how do you expect to explain that when you're talking about then, you know, promoting the community, talking about you want to uplift it and you're all for it, but you well, in her case, she's now divorced from that person. So maybe in this instance, you know, I want to be fair that she might have changed her particular preference. But notice she never answered this as well. All right. She never answered this as well. Okay. So, you know, as well. Chow, who are you talking about? Who's in the sunken place, sis? Just want to know who's in the sunken place. Who's in the sunken place? We're all discussing it because it's great to talk about, you know what I mean? And another video's come out, so we're reacting to her interview, you know? Why would we have to be in a sunken place? Because we're talking about it again, you know, or various conversations. Can't it just be that, you know, we're enthralled by the conversation and we like to have these types of conversations? Do we have to be in a sunken place? Does your first indication of people who talk about a subject have to be the sunken place? Does it have to be? Does it have to be, Chow? Just want to challenge you a little bit, okay? All right, just want to challenge you a little bit, as we have to be in sunken place. Okay, and it's day 4, and you've been here for all 4 days. So are you also in the sunken place as well, darling? Just wanted to make that very clear, because you know it's day 4 of this video because you've been here all 4 days. Okay, darling. Right, before you do me, make sure you don't do yourself, love. All right. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Let's get on with the situation. All right.
For them, I'm not a bus driver. I'm speaking for the average person out there, because I feel for them, because the bus drivers and the average person are what keeps these lights on here on the Breakfast Club.
Right.
They keep me booking shows.
Nobody is saying, first of all, this is not about you booking shows.
This is about how I feel. So when you shit on the people that
first of all,
me,
Envy, you're dead ass wrong for framing it as me shitting on them.
You don't
first
think I'm shitting on them?
I know it. First of all, I know it wasn't. I think what you're saying right now is irresponsible. I think what you're saying is irresponsible.
Envy,
I think what you are framing right now in this moment is highly irresponsible. Because if you listen, I'm going to tell you. Because if you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men. I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
You know.
Let me just say this again, guys. No, maybe it's my toxicity again. I kind of find her a little bit attractive. Just gonna say it, guys. I think my toxicity is kicking in again once more, guys. I kind of find her attractive, just a little bit. It's I need to grow, guys. I need to grow, and I need to heal. But I'm finding her a little bit attractive. Just saying, I'm finding her a little bit attractive in this moment. Now, I don't agree with her point, but I'm finding her a little bit attractive. Just gonna say it. You know what I mean? Just saying, you know what I mean? She might never look at me because I'm a YouTuber, but I'm just saying I find a little bit of attraction right now. Just a little bit. She's, just a little bit hot. I can't lie to you right now. Just a little bit hot. Just want to be honest with you guys and not lie to you. Okay? All right? I don't lie to you.
I'm going to get to. Just because you didn't mean to hurt somebody, just because you didn't mean to affect somebody, doesn't mean you didn't hurt a community. I can say anything about somebody and be like, I didn't mean to hurt you. But if you hurt people, you hurt people. If people feel a way about you, they feel a way about you because those people that you talked about are the people that buy your books, that listen to the show, and they're hurt.
Ebony, what about words like average, mediocrity?
So the funny thing here is that they're talking about whether you hurt your community or not, right? Whenever you hurt your community or not, right? And the reality is here, right, is she's gonna let you know a little bit later on, she don't give a that's the whole point. So I don't know why she even started arguing this point, because the reality is she don't care if you hurt the feelings or not. The whole point is, by the time she got to the end of the video, she told us, hey, I don't even care about your feelings like that. You know what I mean? If I stepped on your toes, I had to do what I had to do. So this argument that they're having about her hurting feelings and that, there's no point. Okay, no point, because she don't care about your feelings. Okay, so yeah.
Typical in the bigotry of low expectations. I think those are the words that hurt the working class.
You can sit here and say, no, I didn't hurt nobody. You hurt people out there that buy your books and follow you and support you.
You asked me to be quiet. No, please. Y'all asked me to be quiet. I listened to your full statement. I understand you have a feeling about it.
22 minutes and I just spoke for 60 seconds.
She is here to talk to her.
I know, but I'm just saying,
we got ours off already.
I'm just returning what she said. But don't act like I didn't let her speak. She spoke for 22 minutes.
Go ahead. Let her talk. Don't do that.
I mean, I do agree with him. She did speak for 22. I actually checked it at the thing. It's 22 minutes. I was actually not even joking. Like when you click on the YouTube video, it's actually 22 minutes. So just saying, 22 minutes. She was talking for 22 minutes, but I want to hear what she got to say some more. You know what I mean? So let's go on.
So Envy, this is where we're different. My primary focus and goal when I do what I do in the world is not to protect feelings. I'm going to be candid with you. I understand it's clear from the energy that there is an emotional attack that you felt was on Black men, the working class, and Black America. I'm going to hold the space for the hurt feelings around that. But more than I care about hurt feelings, I care about providing my people with facts and information that say that the current way of life for the majority of Black Americans is not serving us.
But that's not the issue. That's not the issue. Okay? And that's the whole point. This is very similar to the conversation we had on this channel when I had it with Epiphany, that the conversation shifts as soon as you're being held to account. You're shifting the conversation, and that's not what the conversation's about, right? It's not about the community even needing to grow, because it's not about that. It was about the way you address the situation. Okay. So in all honesty, we've shifted the goalpost here completely to make it an inspirational message, right? But it's not an inspirational message because you turned your nose up at people. That's the whole point, right? So we can discuss different things, but let's not pretend that's what you were trying to do from the very beginning. You've now turned it into an inspirational message. It wasn't an inspirational message in the beginning. Let's go.
I'm going off of the data and the facts. I am not okay, and I don't think it's okay, that the vast majority of Black Americans, again, overpopulate, disproportionately occupy spaces that are not ideal, that make us vulnerable. I talked about the COVID, that make us vulnerable to death, disease, maternal health, all the things that y'all all talk about in this show every day. Now, if y'all are okay with the current positioning of Black America, that we are the lowest income, the lowest home ownership, the lowest educated group, then so be it. And let's just stop talking now and keep on going about our business. Ivy, I'm not okay with it. So that is why I said what I said about addressing the bigotry of low expectations. It's the bigotry of low expectations is the reason why I have to submit that Black men are now going to HBCUs and college and generally at half the rate of Black girls and women. I don't think that's okay.
Shouldn't we address the system that?
Now, does that mean there are less men in the top percentile that she's talking about? Just because they're not going to HBCUs or even the colleges, does that mean there are less men in that top percentile? Because we spoke about this yesterday. It doesn't mean that, because there are other ways to that top percentile. That's the point, right? So the men that are in that percentile, the majority of whom make up that percentile may not be in school. I'm just going to say it. They may not. I don't know the stats. May not, right? They may not be in that percentile in terms of her going to school. They may be finding other ways to enter that space. Entertainment, sports, right? What we spoke about yesterday. So it doesn't mean that the Black men aren't there, right? It doesn't mean that. Okay. So I don't have the stats for that part. I'm just saying to you, it doesn't mean that we're not there. But what you're asking about is us going through the educational route, right? Which is a real conversation. And I'm saying that in the sense of holding a nuance, right? I'm saying that in terms of holding a nuance in that aspect. So I'm not saying that she's not saying something. She's saying something, but I'm saying, is that the whole nuance? So what we are talking about is, yes, if we're talking about traditional careers, that's what we're really kind of talking about traditional careers and traditional route in that aspect. You know what I mean? If she's talking about that progression into that space. Now, I'm not going to deny what she's saying, and deny the points that she made about, deny the things about how she described it. I'm just saying that I think there's a nuance to it. I think there's a little bit of a nuance to it, as well, right? So, just want to be real with that point, right? There definitely has to be a nuance to it, and I'll tell you why there has to be a nuance to it. Because when the manosphere start quoting that women 70% of the time divorce, y'all want to hear some nuance, and I want to hear the nuance too. I don't want to just say that 70% of women just divorce because y'all are bad, because y'all are fed up. Then we start hearing stories about, well, because men like to stay in relationships longer, because this and that, right? You realize there's nuance to the situation. So I think we need to also be ready that there is some nuance to the situation. And just saying that we shouldn't be coddled, I think if we got to be careful, because the same thing will come back in your department when they start saying, well, we can't coddle Black women because y'all just be divorcing. Then you're going to start telling me, well, some of you cheat, and some of them, well, some of us don't cheat. What are we going to say now? So I'm just saying, like, I just want to be very careful about how we deliver it. But I want to be very careful as well in terms of, like, is there a nuance to this conversation, as rather than just saying it so straight, right? Because it's the very thing that we accuse the manosphere of doing when they take a stat and say it so straight to perpetrate a story. So we need to find out some of the nuances to be able to discuss that. Okay? All right? Yes. But I do agree. I'm going to say it again. But I do agree. Let me say it again. But I do agree that we definitely need to have more push We definitely need to have more push for men in the educational aspect. It will definitely aid us. It will definitely encourage us, and it will definitely help in our financial growth in terms of the average earners. The funny thing was, you want to encourage the average people. You got to motivate them. What was being said is not motivating them, because they're the bigger party we need to talk to, right? The average earners, the likes of me and you, the average earners. Or some of you are not average, actually. Some of you are above that. So let me know.
We are addressing the system, but first we have to name it, Charlemagne. See, that's where people's feelings are getting hurt, is the fact that I am naming it. I am saying that it is not okay to bring C's and D's to your home and then expect to go on to higher education and acquire a higher skill set. And when you say that, that is hurtful to people, Envy. I'm acknowledging the pain. But somebody has got to start telling the truth to our people. And some of y'all wonder why you get the political representation y'all get, because some folks would rather hear things that make them feel good than understand and hear the things that are the truth. So let's talk about average, mediocre, and typical, because a lot of people felt a way about it. Well, I looked it up. I did the service of pulling it up out of Merriam-Webster. So this is not Ebony shitting on anybody, Envy. This is simply to say when you do something average, by definition, it is of typical value. It is normal and it is standard. When you are regular, normal, acceptable. When you are mediocre, that would have people real hot. It means ordinary, medium, commonplace, and moderate. And bigotry,
don't forget the bigotry.
Let's pause it there. So, because she knew what she did there. She knew what she did. She read, just like the manosphere do. They like to read a part of what that actually means, and not apply it across the board effectively, and try to leave it as it was. That's all she wrote. But that's not the full context of that word. Okay, all right, because let me go to the Merriam-Webster of moderate or low quality, value, ability, or performance. Ordinary, so-so. Okay, right? Low quality, how is that positive? Right? This is one aspect of it. How is that positive? If something's low quality, how is that positive? Just wondering. How is that a positive aspect to what you're talking about if I call you mediocre? And then, of course, when we're talking about obviously, the word mediocre, I mean, just reading around it, like I said, when you go to different sources, because you quote different sources, if you're somebody who obviously likes etymologies or words and stuff like that, okay. Another description is non-satisfactory, poor, inferior. Right? That's another description. So, not very good. Just acceptable, bad quality, mediocre is not a good thing. There's no positive, there's no redeemable qualities behind it. None. So when she says average and mediocre are not in the same bracket. When we say somebody's average, that is not mediocre. Do you know what I'm saying to you? That's not again mediocre. Again, that's not in the same bracket. If I say someone's average, that's one thing. But again, even when we use the word average, we have to be very careful how we use it. Right? I would never call you guys mediocre people. Oh, I want to encourage you. You're mediocre people. I don't think we're actually asking for. We never asked for her to motivate us. That's the issue. We never asked for her to motivate us. So why she took it upon herself? If you take it upon yourself, then know how you're gonna. Then obviously respect the people you're gonna be doing this for. Nobody asks for her to come and give us a motivational speech. Nobody. So let's deeper at that. Nobody asked her to come and take this position. You're acting as if we told her, we need you to come and motivate us. We never did. No one's actually asked her to motivate anybody. She took it upon herself to say it. I'm just saying. Okay. I just think we need to be a bit more nuanced. Okay. So anyway.
Low
I'm
expectations.
gonna get to that. That's an academic study. Okay. So those of you that think that's George W. Bush, go do your reading. Go do your reading. But let's talk about those words, Charlamagne. Nothing in there says you ain't shit. Nothing in there says it's bad or low or beneath.
They've applied the negative connotation.
That's a projection, and I'm not going to stand for it because you need to be honest with the actual semantics in which we're talking about. So when
let's not do that. I don't care how loyal you are. There's no way you are going to tell me that interpretation of mediocre has not got a negative connotation. When you deal with the society that you're dealing with and you're aware of your community, you know. You know. You know. Can I articulate why men are so upset with what she said? I think it's the contemptible energy. I think that's what I was explaining, and that's what I was trying to explain. It's the contemptible energy. That is what it is. It is the snobbery looking down at somebody that is the issue. You know what I mean? And I don't think if the roles were reversed, I think you'd understand. I think you'd know how to feel, and I think you'd know that this wouldn't be very kind if somebody did this to you. It's a snobbery behind it, right? It is. It's a snobbery behind it. So when someone has that kind of attitude of snobbery, no one likes that energy. No one likes that energy, right? No one likes that energy. So you can have your preference, and I've already said this several times. Okay, all right. It is a snobbery behind it, and this is precise. That's why I did a video the other day. That's why I did it today about Kevin Samuels and our good sis. If we called you average at best, would you be okay? No, if somebody said to your face, babe, you're average at best in your face, would you be okay? Just asking a question. No, the ladies who are saying that it's okay, I want to know, if we called you average at best, your face is average at best, would you be okay? Or would you take some offense to it? Just want to know. Would you suddenly understand what we're saying? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Medium ugly, maybe even. You know what I mean? But your face is average at best. How would you take it? No, I didn't. I just said, how would you take it? Those of you who were agreeing, who were saying that it's not that deep and saying those things, we already don't. A lot of us agree, so we already know. But for those of you who didn't agree and said it's normal to call people average, I'm saying to you, with your face, okay, would you be comfortable with that? Hopeful EC's kept on dodging my question. She doesn't want to answer the question. I said, would you? I just want to know if they called you average at best, whether you take it or not. That's what I'm saying. Just so I know where we stand. Do you know what I mean? Some of you are not average at best. I can tell. Some of you are not average at best. Some of you are very fine, very at your best. Can see some of the DPs. I'm looking at a few of them. I'm going, wow, the black women. See me in my office later. You know what I mean? Okay. All right. So yes, where you know we talking about a woman's looks is problematic. Talking about a man's finances, problematic. We all know that's our weaknesses. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So I would never call a woman average. Is that a compliment? No. Is it disrespectful? Absolutely. You know, hopeful EC, you are dodging, because the question is, would you be comfortable being called average at best? You've managed to type again. You managed to type and tell me you're driving, so you're not dodging responses are slow. But you've typed already a second ago saying that content is not energy. You've typed several times of me talking. Look at 1. Look at 2. Within the amount of time I've said what I've said about average at best, you've typed twice, even a third time. Sis, I just need that question answered. Would you be okay with average at best? But what if it's true? No, what if it's true? What if you are average at best? You know what I mean? I don't think it is. Right? I don't think it is. I don't think that's the case. And I think the reality is, okay, the reality is in the situation, okay, that nobody will be comfortable with that. Nobody will be comfortable with that. And so was Kevin Samuel's really bad statistics also backed with how facially symmetrical and all nonsense. You know what I mean? But I hear what you're saying. I get what you guys are saying, you know, about statistics. What we're saying is there's a way to go about it. That's what I'm saying to you. There's a way to go about it. And so if you're really invested in healing the community and changing things over, I've said to you guys, the reason why you guys enjoy it in this space is because I make it a safe space to have conversations, whether you're man or woman. Okay, let's go on.
You say regular, hardworking, everyday people, Charlamagne. That is rhetorically not any different than me saying average, mediocre work.
I disagree because those words can be weaponized. Just like the word basic has been weaponized. I can call y'all basic.
Now, again, this is when I know that somebody's really trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Okay, when she starts saying that, hey, you know what? When you call people regular people, but she knows context is king. If I say you're a regular, hardworking man, no one takes offense to that because the word regular has, as Charlamagne said, has not been weaponized. It's not a way that we use it in a derogative term. So if I say you're a regular, working, hardworking man, you're a regular, hardworking YouTuber, no one gets offended by that because of the way that it's been portrayed. Now, if I say you're a basic YouTuber, you're a basic worker, you might get offended. You know what I mean? You might get offended. So.
But that's what I'm saying. But there's a negative connotation.
You call me mediocre, I'm out the room.
But also,
see, I made a whole song. I don't want no mediocre.
But also, we've done that with the N-word. We've done it with the word whore. There's negative connotations to a lot of words, and if someone called it to you, I get that. But
we reclaim the word whore. You were talking about something totally different.
But what I'm saying is,
nobody is reclaiming average and mediocre.
Even when she brought up C's and D's in school.
Who is reclaiming the word whore? I just need her to clear that up. That argument is going left. Who's reclaimed the word whore, please? And said, baby, this is a positive word that we're using now, or a word that we can use with each other. Okay, like maybe nigger was one of those words, but whore, no. You know what I mean? Whore, no. You know what I mean? Yes, no.
Cool. Academically, a C says you're average.
That's exactly what it means.
I don't know why that's a problem being average.
Because people
are okay accepting
Mandy, I'm going to tell you.
I don't think essential workers are average. I don't think essential
First
workers
of all,
are average.
let me finish this statement.
I don't think Uber drivers, bus drivers, I don't think any of those people are average immediately.
I'm not saying that the people are average. So let's slow it down.
I don't think the job is average.
The job is average.
I don't think
the job is average by definition. It says that most people can do it per the skill set. It also speaks to the income it commands. It speaks to scarcity and demand.
So that's what we're talking about. That are holding college degrees that have to drive Uber right now because
they're doing mediocre work. So Weezy, let me be very.
I think the key thing here again is context once more as well, right? Context is very important, right? And this is why it's so important as well, okay? All right? It's important because contextually, how do you mention this word? If I say the job that you do is average, it's dependent upon the context of the conversation of how I use the word. And when we pretend as if we don't understand that, as if you don't know English, because we supposedly a lot of you guys are not the people that she was talking about, then you pretend as if you don't know what she's actually doing in this moment. She's moving the goalpost once again. She knows exactly how she used that particular word in what particular context. Okay. All right. So when you talk in a particular context and use certain types of words, then of course it's going to take on a different meaning, i.e. the second conversation she had with the audience, or at least her addressal towards the men, and then using the words mediocre now take on a different form because the context is different. I don't think you guys are. I know you're very smart. Now, I could say right now, hey, I know you're not mediocre and I know you're not dumb. You know, I know you guys, you know, y'all got some C grades and D grades. Y'all can understand me. Like, I'm not going to start saying that. You know the context of how you said it and why you said it. And the reality is you weren't saying it to uplift, and you weren't saying it. You were saying it to be rude. Okay. It was a reading. It was a drag, okay? One of a little bit of eloquence and English, but you use a word that was going to create some traction, and that's the reality of things, right? Let's be real, okay?
Clear. So what I'm not saying, no, y'all got to listen to this. I am not saying that a piece of paper makes you a more valuable individual. I didn't say that. I don't believe that. I prove it to you. I let a lawyer go because when I was ready to go, where I was trying to go and vacation with him, sir, your particular way of practicing law did not allow provision and protection.
But I think what's the real question is, if C's and D's aren't good enough, and you're saying that a higher education, what I'm saying is you're saying a higher education also doesn't mean that, then what do they have to do to be excellent? Because I'm someone who did have C's, B's, A's. I own 3 businesses. I'm sitting here with all y'all, and shit, we all make 7 figures. Maybe I'm on the lower end of this as a mediocre person. It's like,
you don't know what I make. I don't make that kind of money.
Why are you lying? He probably makes 8.
Listen, you can't tell about
but Weezy, did you hear about story about my mother? Weezy, she doesn't have a college degree. My grandfather didn't, but she never did it.
I did hear about
she did. Right, so she's not mediocre. Not because, but when she drove that bus, she was doing mediocre work. We can call her up and she'll say that. And that is the frame.
But what do they have to do to surpass it then for you?
See, and here's the thing. The reason why she would say that her mom, if she rings her mom and says her mom was doing mediocre work, is because her mom is no longer in that position. See, oftentimes people can talk very boldly when they've come out of a situation. And it's one of those things where it's like you've grown out of a situation, and instead of being respectful of the fact that and graceful for the fact you've come out of a place, you talk bad and wicked about the people still in that place, forgetting you came out of that place. So for instance, when she said her mother would tell you that, oh, it was a mediocre job. Would she have told you it was mediocre when she was doing 3 jobs at one point in time when she was still in it? Would you have described your job when you were still in it as being mediocre when you were still living that truth? No, you wouldn't have. But you're talking wickedest and baddest when you've come out of it. That's the attitude that is making people feel some type of way. See, you should be modest, graceful in the way that you approach certain things, and don't pretend as if because you've ascended now you get to talk wickedest and baddest. You don't, right? That is showing us that you haven't fully understood the privilege of you being in the position you have. Yes, you have the skills and the talent, but listen, the Bible says, unless the Lord alloweth, it's what makes people have wealth. You thinking that you are even in full control is your arrogance. Of course, it's partly your skill, but the reality is it's the Lord that allows people to have even wealth. My friend, please, if the Lord says no tomorrow, there's no tomorrow. You get what I'm saying to you? So you should be graceful in all that you have. And this is one of the issues. I had one of these issues with my boys years ago. I remember saying to him, because he was exceptional from young, right? European champion, kickboxer. Like, he was ahead of his time. Like, me and him were not in the same league. Like, from our age of 17, 18, he was well ahead. He was exceptional. And I remember we had a conversation one time and he was talking about people that were below. And the way he spoke, I said to him, bro, do you know the way you're speaking right now? You're actually being distasteful. I said, you believe because of your talent alone, okay? All right, you believe because of your talent alone, that's why you're here. What you don't realize is it's by the grace of God that you're even here. Should you have no breath tomorrow, you'd be in the same place as someone else, whether they're rich or poor. You have to be graceful. It's by grace that, do you know what, things come together for you and it works in the way it does, right? It's by grace. Right? We talk about people in sports. If you've ever been in sports, sometimes it's not even how gifted and talented you are. Sometimes it's simply opportunity being afforded to you, a platform being afforded to you. Sometimes you hurt your leg and you get injured and you can no longer play sports. You were meant to be great. You injure yourself and it's done. Why are some people injury prone and why are some people free from injury? And you come and say that the people that never made it, they never worked as hard as you. Are you all right? Some people didn't make it because unfortunately the knee gave out because their body wasn't made for it. So this is where we have to be graceful. And I'm not saying we let people off the hook. That's not what we're saying. What we say is we be gracious with our words because we never know what could happen. It is by God's grace that you are in a position you're in. So whenever people talk from a position when they're on high about people below them, it actually tells us a lot about you. You're shitting on everybody else while they're below you. Remember, at any moment you could be here, but tomorrow you could be here. You understand? So you should be graceful in how you do it. So yes, your mum will say that her job was mediocre, but only after she came out. She won't tell you it's mediocre when she's doing it.
You have to do something, not for me.
But by your standards, because if Charlamagne is saying it's not mediocre or average, and the people listening feel like they're not, by your...
Okay, I just want people to stand on it. I want people to stand on it. If you are a person, and we're talking about Black America, and you feel as if you have maxed out your skill set, whether it's in the classroom or when you wake up in the morning and do whatever it is that you do, then God bless you, and I support and love you. I am talking to Black people that I know have a potential skill set that is untapped. So that's the difference between mediocre and exceptional. Not the piece of paper, not even the income. It's, are you complicit and complacent in what you...
I love that. And I think that's a better message. That this is a much better message when she drops it like this, talking about the difference, right? Because in your original message, you didn't make a difference, right? In the original message, you didn't make a difference. So now what you are talking about is making it very clear now that, hey, look, if you know you can do more, then you're being complacent. Now you're being mediocre. That's a better definition, right? A much better definition, because now what you're saying is, if you know that you have more to give and you refuse to give it, then you're being mediocre, because by your own standards, there is more to give. If you're at your maximum capacity, this is why I said, if you're at your maximum capacity, are you going to call someone mediocre when they're at the maximum capacity? Right? So now this is a better, I like that. This is a better nuance in the way she wants to deliver this message. I like that message, saying you personally, man or woman, but let's say to the men specifically, if you know there is more to give and you're not doing it, then you're being mediocre. I can work with that. I can work with that, because it's giving personal onus to the fact that you now know there is more to give and you're refusing to do it. Then therefore you are guilty.
You are doing currently, or are you willing to go above and beyond and do the thing that most people won't do? By definition, we see that's where exception lies.
Could be the nurse that drives Uber on the side. I think that's why.
Look, my father was a military. He was a mechanic. He was a bus driver. He was a police officer.
So he was exceptional. Your father was exceptional.
My mother worked at Guardian Life Insurance. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, first person to graduate from college, and my parents put me through college. So I don't look at them as mediocre. I don't look at them as average. They are exceptional, and they did what they do to get.
What you said is so different than what I'm talking about.
I am the same with them, and I am the same.
That is just not intellectually honest.
And the difference is what you said is, oh, you want to encourage and you want to do this. I do the same thing without putting people down.
I'm not putting people down. I'm being very honest.
You are, and people have been saying, I don't think you're listening. Like, as much as you talk, you're not listening to what people are saying.
I'm not bothered by that, though.
And I think this is the issue that we're having right now. She says she's not putting people down. Who are you to tell us that you're not putting it down? The men are telling you, if you're saying specifically you're trying to address Black men, let's really deep it, then you're putting us down. If we're telling you you're putting us down, we're telling you that it was disrespectful the way that you actually said it. Why won't you hear that part? You're saying you weren't putting us down, but baby, you were. The examples of how you said it in the second video, not the first, but the second video, because the first video was more about your attitude, but the second video, yeah, you were shooting them down. If you were trying to uplift them, that wasn't uplift. You know? See what I'm saying to you in that instance? And that's true. That is why what Charlamagne was saying was, We don't call people average or mediocre irrespective. I don't want to be calling someone mediocre. Let me tell you something, right? There are people that go into the drains. There are people that go into the sewage and clear out the sewage. God bless you. I do not want to come and say you're mediocre, because can you do it? Can you go in there and do it yourself? I can't go and do it. You know what I mean? Now, it might not require an extensive amount of skill set, but do I even have the willpower to do it? No. And I'm not going there. Okay? I'm not going into there. Okay? So some of these jobs, I'm not going to ever do them, but you need them. Right? So we don't look down upon them. Just like I told you about the anus. We don't look down on it. The Bible says that.
Not
because
going to
people
be
are hurt and
shamed.
they have opinions. Just like
I
you
am
have your
not
opinion, you can't talk over people and not let people talk.
But you're also interrupting me, Envy.
I was talking, you keep talking to me. I let you speak, and then I just started talking.
You got it.
I just started talking. I let you speak, and I waited for you to be quiet, and I started talking. You heard something that you didn't like, and you cut me off.
Because once you start being intellectually dishonest.
Here we go. Now that Envy, go ahead. No, that's exactly what happened.
Let's keep it.
No, but if I
cool.
give somebody the platform to speak, and I let you speak, then I speak. And you have to listen just like I listen. Just like with Weezy and Mandy, when they speak, I listen. It doesn't matter that we don't agree or disagree. We can have a conversation, but we got to respect each other in this conversation.
I agree.
I think
part of that respect is being honest.
Yeah, I think the
honest.
conversation is healthy. If you listen to the whole Ayanla interview, I get a better sense of what you're trying to say. But the doubling down is what threw me completely off.
What threw you off about
it did sound like you was shitting on the working class.
I'm not shitting on the working class.
And if you weren't, I think you need to make that very clear.
Well, I've tried to make it clear.
So I think, okay, so I love what Charlamagne said. Listen, look, first one I can take it, but second one, let's dive into that. Let's dive into that because that response wasn't necessarily you giving one that's uplifting in that sense. So I definitely think that's a fair deduction to make from aspects. I think that's a fair aspect to take in that. Ultimate Enigma says he wants her to be humble while being honest. Yes, I think we all want people to be humble. Do you not want to be humble? Do you not want people to be humble? Isn't that what we all want? We all want. Are you talking about humbling her? Or are you talking about being humble? I think we all want to be humble, but are you saying him trying to humble her? Is that what you're actually saying? You might be saying that. So let me not jump too ahead of the time. You might be saying he wants her to be humbled rather than humble, because I think we all want people to be humble. I don't think we are gravitating towards arrogance in this aspect when people are trying to tell people about the baby. Would you want to follow me if I was arrogant about telling you Wagwan? I don't think you want to be in that space. Okay.
With 3 different examples, I think y'all don't want to hear it, and that's okay. Envy, it's okay. It's like you said, it's okay to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we can argue semantics back, because that's really, at this point, this is an argument around semantics. This is not around intention. This is not around feelings. Because we talked about the data, we've gone to the dictionary to define the words. Now it is, I heard what you said, but this is how it made me feel.
So what is Eboni K. Williams trying to say?
I am saying plainly, Charlamagne, that I believe in maximizing skill sets for Black Americans. I believe in ownership, entrepreneurship, and multiple streams of income as a way tethered to our liberation as Black people who were brought here in chattel some 16, 19 year. And if that makes you feel a way, maybe it's time to do something about it. That's all. And many people are. So when Envy talks about this example of his father being in law enforcement and being a business owner and doing 3-4 things on top of that, that is nowhere near mediocrity. That is called exceptionalism. That is called.
And I think the issue behind this also is, again, I always say this, the message is for everyone, but many are called, but few are chosen. You know what I mean? Many are called, but few are chosen. You know what I mean? Many are called, few are chosen. Meaning this message is for some men, but it's not for everyone, because not everyone can respond in a way, right? Not everybody can respond in a way. I think that's also very key as well. I think that, I think the reality is there are always going to be average people. There are always going to be people that are going to be okay and content with, quote unquote, what they might say an average, regular life. And so in that instance now, her message of trying to have this discussion really should just be about she didn't actually hit the target what she wanted to hit. She got the people worked up, but she hasn't hit the target. There's no conversation to be had because people are just fighting her. You know what I mean?
A black man availing himself to his highest calling and skill set. He talks about his mother and what she did. That is not mediocrity. By the way, there's nothing wrong with mediocrity. By definition, it's not bad nor good. It's mediocre. It is typical and it is regular. But if you are looking for me,
that's not true. Like I said, I don't like the fact she uses that when she knows exactly that there is an issue behind it. It's pleading ignorance when she's not ignorant. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Anybody is looking for me to put out a permission slip for people that look like me and come from where I come from, which is the diaspora, around average is good enough, medium is okay, just do enough to get by. No, I'm not going to make that soft place for you to land.
Well, to Weezy's question, what is exceptional then?
It's very simple. Y'all keep acting like it's hard. Anything that goes above your minimum skill set. That's it. Whatever that is for you, that might be driving the Uber. Like I said, when
so then actually she kind of breaking her point. If anything above your normal skill set is exceptional, then calling the bus driver mediocre isn't mediocre, right? Or calling somebody who got C's and D's mediocre, it's not mediocre. Because if that's above their skill set, then it's not mediocre. Do you see how your point is now actually contravening what you're saying? The reality is, call it what it is. You were being disrespectful. Call it what it is. You're being disrespectful. And that's all it needs to be. Because if I'm saying C's and D's, okay, is me going above and beyond, right? Some people, if you remember when you were in school, you were given what we call estimated grades. Some of us were estimated E's and D's. If that's the case and you got a C, you are exceptional because you are way above what you could do. Now, this is the point. Unfortunately, now, because you're not being true to the actual point, which is you want to be real. You believe that exceptionality comes also with status and power and wealth, and it's about titles and stuff like that, which in some degree it is. In some degree it is. Now you've had to contravene your point by making this point by saying, hey, look, it's gonna be real with you. Mediocre is when you're not surpassing with your skill set. But if your skill set says you're actually E and you got a D, you surpassed, you're excelente. If your skill set said C, you're past that and you got a B, you're at the top of your mark, then you are excellent at that point. Then baby, we actually have no leg to stand on. Then bus drivers are not mediocre, they're exceptional. Because there are some people who might have never been a bus driver. They might have only been able to be, I don't know if there's a job we can say that. Maybe they only sweep the street or whatever or something. I don't know, right? But the fact they are the bus driver or whatever, then my friend, they might have done exceptionally more because even their family before them might have lived in a small house all together, all in one house, and you've managed to buy your own house, living it with your family. This might have been exceptional. Right?
My mother was driving the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school bus and working for UPS at night and putting herself through beauty school, all in a means to advance her skill set so she could go do finger waves for 7 hours. And then when she realized, okay, I have a skill set on top of that, shout out to finger waves, okay? I don't want to stand on my feet doing finger waves 7 hours a day. I can do something different than that. She opened a childcare facility. Then she opened another one, and then she bought tractor trailers, and then she had a fleet of trucks.
Did it bother you then when people brought up salary and money? Because you had a different point.
Yes, and that's
but
why
you
I said
did that in
the
y'all interview, though. You brought up salary. When you set the conversation, you talked about how women are making more money than men,
and
how they're buying houses more than men.
And that's ownership.
You set that table.
Yeah, but even what she's saying too in terms of salary, she's saying multiple streams of income at the same time, which is why, okay, he's a bus driver. Your father did multiple things and owned properties.
No, he didn't do multiple things. He was a mechanic. He only did one thing at one time. He just worked overtime to make sure it was good. He didn't own no properties, nothing. My property he didn't invest. He doesn't know anything about the stock market. I'm the first person in my family to invest in anything.
Okay.
Correct. He doesn't know anything about it. But I would also say that a lot of people in our communities don't have the opportunities that a lot of people do.
And I don't think, Ebony, you're speaking enough to the disadvantages that black people face.
The advantages that
So now we've got into an interesting point. I got into an interesting point here. Because the finger waves again. Someone might take that some way, but that was a slight dig. She knew what she was saying, but I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna hit it. It's not my business. Y'all gotta sort that out, okay? But like what she's saying here is really important. Once more again, sorry. let me just load this music. Okay, cool. So no, I think really what's so important here is, you know, as she says, you know, I think, you know, that, you know, for her in the instance, she has a standard that she believes is excellent for her. And so whatever her standard is, that will be her idea of what we call excellence or mediocrity. What we're saying is, don't put your aspect of mediocrity onto everybody else, right? Don't put it onto everybody else. Put it onto where it needs to be put onto, which is your own standard. Which, fair enough, like I said to you, I already agreed with her. Her point stands about choosing the bus driver. I'm not mad at it. You know, so I think quintessentially, you know, in this aspect, you know, she has some points here. But I think what the boys were about to jump into was saying, where is your level of empathy and nuance to the conversation so that you can actually begin to make people understand. But hey, it be like that.
They don't have the ability to get jobs. They don't have those abilities. They don't have those abilities that a lot of my white neighbors now have.
And which, to be fair, I went to, shout out to Evans High School in Orlando, Florida, 98% Black, especially when I graduated in 2009. We had trades. So like literally it was a nursing program. It was cosmetology school. My mom believed in just going into the healthcare field. And then we had hospitality as another option. We're literally taught these are the jobs that are suitable for you as well at a very young age. I was about to go to be a CPA. Sure. I worked at a Big Four, worked at Goldman Sachs, worked at EY. Nice. Yeah. I was unfamiliar that those jobs and opportunities were available to me until I moved to New York City. Yeah. Coming from Orlando, I didn't know I could be an accountant or what Wall Street was in finance. And so I do agree to that standpoint that we're not even given the scope of what our opportunities can
be. Would those jobs be considered mediocre?
So I'm not even going to play this.
Look, you just poking the bear now. Now you just poking.
But let's let Ebony say her last words and get whatever she has to get out without interrupting, because you know we have to go. We have to cut this up. No, we have to cut it up because it goes on.
No, understand. I will say this to MB's point of our people not knowing. I agree with you, which is why I am so incensed and I'm so committed to having this conversation right now. If y'all,
we got to the point we got to. You know, I think we've reached the end of it. To be honest, you know, listen. I think there's more that black men can do. I think there'll always be more that as black men we can do, and I'm not gonna sit back and lie about that. There's not more that we could do. There is. Let's be honest. There is. Okay. You know, what I would say is, what you're not gonna do is you're not gonna do on me. You know, just to prove a point. You know what I mean? Make your point. You ain't got to do at me. You know what I mean? Like, make your point. You ain't got to do on me. You know what I mean? So we're just saying at the end of the day, I think you just got to treat people, you know, with respect. And if you're saying you're doing a job to uplift, let's see you uplift. You know? So we need to be able to talk about that. We need to be able to have that conversation, but we need to be able to be respectful with one another when we're delivering it. Right? It's the same thing with my platform, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying at the moment. I'm saying, look, hey, you know, if you're saying that it's okay, just think about how turned away you are when I'm delivering certain things in a particular way. If I deliver it in a particular way about truths about the black women, how would you take it if I deliver it in a particular way and then go, well, no, I mean, I wasn't saying it like that. You guys are making it more than it actually is. Why are you triggered? It's the truth, isn't it? What I said, was it a lie what I said? Was it a lie what I said? Like, we don't want to be in that space. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't want to be in a space where we're doing that to one another. You know what I mean? What we do want to do is be able to have some grace and empathy. And that also comes in your tone, in your language, in the words you use, you know, in the way you handle things. You know, I'm learning, and this might be my final points. I'm really learning, you know, being this YouTuber and dealing with audiences. When people disagree with me, my natural instinct is to, you know, is to start the roller kings, bruv. You know what I mean? So I'm like, bruv, you know you're disagreeing, but you know what the truth is. Like, yo, but I'm learning to hold space. I'm learning to be, you know, graceful. I'm learning to ask, try and understand where the person's coming from. I'm learning not for the first instinct to be back against the wall, but actually, you know, to try and give different perspectives. That's very true. I know they have labeled me red pill before. Not my main people who know must already know I don't do red pill, but when new people come in, they have that viewpoint. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So look, it's so easy to go down the path, well, let's just give them tough love. But remember, if we're saying tough love, how does it feel when we're on the other end of tough love? How does it feel when the whole community, including yourself, is bunched in and then they're delivering a message about you and their thingy, right? So what we're saying is, what we're saying in this instant is that if you know you don't like it when tough love is given your way and you feel offended, you know, and you want to check me sometimes even when I'm saying something, right? Then you have to also be aware that this is not the message we're now going to get excited about. Oh, it's about time because black men need to have it. It's like, well, remember when people are saying, well, it's about time that black women hear it because they've been talking all this time. They've had their TV shows like the Red Pill might say or Mansfield say, it don't work. No one listens. You know what I mean? No one really listens. So let's try and be effective in the way that we listen and hear and be effective in the way we deliver messages. Okay. You know, that's all we're saying, right? But look, I think, you know, I think it's going to be interesting next few days because I think there's a lot more that's going to come out. Oh, someone said I should review the thingy. Yeah, sorry. Let me review it. Sorry, I apologize. And Yala responded. So let me just so you guys can see it. I don't know if you're going to read it, though. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Can I do Zoom? Can I do this? I don't know if you guys can see it, to be honest. Yeah, okay, cool. So I think this is what one of the this was Janice Hilton. This was her YouTube, you know, as well. So we can talk about this, you know what I mean? So apparently this is a response by Ayala. She says, may I offer a bit of clarity since the entire conversation was not offered? Every woman and person has a right to have desires, values and standards, and we have a right to have expectations of our partners. I also believe our expectations must be realistic. There is no reason to settle for a person who is not responsible or accountable. My concern and statement relates to those of us who go for titles, paychecks, and appearances and overlook the heart and soul of the person. Okay. And then I think there's a bit more. Recently, a very wealthy lawyer was accused of killing his wife and son. A prominent elected official was found guilty of pilfering funds. His wife was caught flushing cash down the toilet when the FBI came knocking. There are doctors and dentists who have been accused of molesting patients. 5 police officers are now accused of beating a man to death. Titles, incomes, and capacity to give more must not take precedence over character. Integrity, God-centeredness, sincerity, and yes, generosity is often dismissed. And okay, let's have a look. Often dismissed and overlooked for flash and a good time. I'm encouraging us to be willing to pray up, look up, and pull up before we shoot a man down because of his title, income, or lack thereof. A good person is a good person, regardless of their job title, partnership, and marriage. Hey, what happened?
Is about souls.
Sorry. Partnership and marriage is about souls coming together to love, grow, and build together. What we do with each other and for each other needs to be honorable, not just transactional. A bridge must have integrity in order to carry the weight of those crossing it. Love hands. Okay. I mean, hey, you know, hey, I look, you know, I would say this. I think we've said it before. Integrity is important. Okay, so money is important too. I'm not saying we don't have to have money, but it's more about focusing on the integrity, and that's really important. You know, I think that's what we need to be discussing as well. Integrity is just as important as the money you're talking about, right? And I think she said what she said. You know, so let's talk about that. You know, integrity. Whew. All right, listen, guys, my time is up, man. You know what I mean? My time is up. I need to go for a walk at least. My ass is like numb, so I'm gonna take my ass for a walk. Okay, but I appreciate you guys. You know, and we'll be back a little bit later on for more conversations around Married at First Sight, I believe, and also as well my you know, my one-to-one with Andre as well. So you know, SSS. Yeah, no, I know, I agree. Of course, we know that. Of course, I think she does value integrity. The question is, in what percentage? I think that's the key thing here. Remember I said about adjustment over settlement. We want to adjust. That means we need you to tweak your budget. The percentages in the budget need to be tweaked. You've got too much. It's heavy. It's heavy on the finances, not enough on the integrity, not enough on the character, not enough on the way that you're looking at situations. So what she's saying is tweak it, adjust it, not settle, adjust. And maybe I think Anyana could have presented the message much better. I know she was doing it for shock value, and I know she was trying to get her to wake up. But I think what the reality is about adjusting, you know, adjusting and pivoting and saying, actually, my budget is too heavy on finances. Let me put it on. Is he a good man? Is he integrous? Is he an honest man? You know, is he hardworking? Is he protective of me? You know, can he love? Like, you know, put it on those focuses. And I think that's where it's better. I think, you know, you know, Ultra Enigma said, did she say that she didn't want that? I think by the way of her answer, it told us everything we need to know. I think by the way of her answer, and I think that's why. So, and even at this point, I mean, at this point, you know, the conversation we've had, let's be real. I mean, have you heard anything that says that she was focused more on the integrity? I think she understood that, but I think just the weight, and I get it, the trauma she's gone through, you know, as well, you know. All right, let's get on. So, you know, let's get on, you know, and see, you know. Let's see. All right, listen, guys. Let me leave it there for you. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. Anyana.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Mm-hmm.